Okay, in Tanya, we started already Perek Chav Gimel, on page Chav Ches on top, 94 at the bottom. I'm going to start again, Perek Chav Gimel. We learned a few lines, but we didn't learn last week, and it's all one continuation. So we're going to start again, Perek Chav Gimel, 94 at the bottom, Chav Ches on top. So now the Rabbi explained why Hashem's speech is really speech, even though Hashem's speech never leaves him, and our speech does leave us. So he says, because in the world, as far as the world is concerned, they don't feel Hashem. So as far as the world is concerned, the speech did leave Hashem, and therefore it's not bottled to Hashem. Okay, so he says now like this. Vim kolanal, based on what he mentioned before, Yuvan v'yavur heita v'toisa sabir. We'll understand with an additional explanation, Masha Amar b'Zayir. What the Zayir says, Araisa v'kutshabrichu kulachad. The Zayir says, Hashem and Torah is one. Upetukuni pirshu, and Tukuna Zayir explains, Ramach pikudim, that the 248 positive mitzvahs are Ramach ivarim de Malka, are the 248 limbs of God. But we're going to explain this whole thing now. But here, if you notice, Dr. Rebbe is saying there's a difference between Torah and mitzvahs. Torah, the Zohar says, Torah and Hashem are synonymous. They're one. Mitzvahs are not one with Hashem. They are the limbs, the organs of Hashem. And Dr. Rebbe is going to explain the difference between saying that Hashem and Torah is one versus mitzvahs are the limbs of Hashem. What does this mean? He says like this. Why are mitzvahs called the limbs of Hashem? He's speaking now the greatness of mitzvahs. It's called the limb of Hashem. Mitzvahs and pnimius rotzen elyon. Mitzvahs are the real will of Hashem. The cheftzei amiti, and his true desire, which is godly power in the worlds to keep them existing. Because the whole life and the whole existence and sustenance of the world is dependent on our actions. And let me explain it as follows. A person needs to eat. Why does a person need to eat? If you don't eat, chas v'shalom, for a while, you're going to die. The neshama will leave the body. In order to keep the neshama in the body, you need to fuel it. You need to feed it. If you have oil in a wick, the second the oil is done, the flame goes out. There's nothing holding it. In order to hold our neshama in the body, we need to feed it. In order to keep Hashem in the world, Kaviyachol, Hashem set it up. It doesn't have to be any. He set it up this way. We need to feed him. If Pachas v'Sholem, we don't feed Hashem, Hashem will leave the world. That's what he wants. Just like a person needs food to keep the neshama in the body. Why is that the neshama needs food to keep? You need food to keep the neshama in the body, because in godliness it's like that. In godliness, if Hashem is not fed, Kaviyachol, I'll explain what that means. Hashem will leave the world, and therefore Chassidus explains in Korbanis. We say, those that say Korbanis say it every day as Korbani Lachmi liishai. Hashem says, my korban, my bread. Why is a sacrifice likened to bread? So the Alter Rebbe explains, just like bread keeps the neshama in the body, korbanis, i.e. Torah mitzvahs, keeps Hashem in the world.
Torah and mitzvahs the same here?
No, now we're talking about mitzvahs. Well, generally speaking, Torah mitzvahs keeps Hashem in the world. Then we're going to differentiate between Torah and mitzvahs. But generally speaking, Torah mitzvahs is God's food. In fact, there's a pasuk about Torah, Luchu lachmu belachmi. Torah is called food, bread. Torah is called water. Torah is called fire. Torah is called bread. Torah is called a million different things. And each aspect of Torah brings out a different point. Torah is also called the bread. Luchu lachmu belachmi, the pasuk says, meaning this is the food of Hashem. What do you mean the food of Hashem? It's not that Hashem gains weight and goes on a scale to see how much he weighs. What it means is we need to keep Hashem in the world. Hashem said to keep me in the world, you need to give me Torah mitzvahs. Now, when you say Hashem wants the world, there is what's called Pnimius Haratzin, the real will, and there's Chitzonius Haratzin, the external will. There is in our life, for instance, we mentioned this last time. I want to work. I have a will to work. But why? Because I want to make money. And in fact, let's take it a step further. Why do I want to make money? Because I need to buy things. Now, I want to work. I have a will to work. Is that my real will? No. My real will is to make money. But in order to make money, I have to work. So therefore, I want to work. So there's what's called the external will, meaning it's only a means to an end. I want to work because I want to make money. And then you have, let's say, we'll stop it. I make the ultimate purpose is to make money. That's my real will. But in order to come to the real will, because how else am I going to make money? I have to work. So I want to work. But work is not my main intent. My main desire is to make money, not to work. When Hashem created the world, Hashem wants the world. He wants the world. But why does Hashem want the world? What is the ultimate purpose why Hashem created the world? Not for the world, because he wanted godliness in the world. Though you can't have dira b'tachtainim, you can't have a dwelling place for Hashem in a low world if there's no low world. But what is the purpose of creation? Not the world, not the tachtainim, but the purpose of the world is dira b'tachtainim, for Hashem to reveal his essence down here. But in order for Hashem to reveal his essence, there must be a world. So the Alter Rebbe says, mitzvahs, which creates the dwelling place for Hashem down here, that's the real will of Hashem. That's what he says. Mitzvahs and pnimius rotzena elyon, v'cheftzei o amiti. That's the real desire. Hashem doesn't want world. That's not the ultimate purpose. Of course he wants world, but that's the external purpose. He wants world for the real purpose of bringing Kedusha, to make him exist. Because the whole existence of the world, meaning keeping Hashem in the world, it's up to us. We make it or break it. If we would all go on strike and not do mitzvahs, Hashem would leave the world. There's nothing feeding him. There's nothing keeping him here. So therefore it comes out, the Rebbe says, keeping the action of mitzvahs and the fulfillment of mitzvahs is lavush hapnimi, the real garment, the pnimius rotzen ha'elyon, to the real will of Hashem. From this action of the person's mitzvah, nimshach ar b'chayis rotzen ha'elyon, comes the life of the will of Hashem. Lislabish ba'elam is to dress itself in the world. Meaning like this. Hashem wants the real will to be revealed in the world. How does that happen? By us doing mitzvahs. That means the action of my mitzvah is the limb that the power of the neshama comes into. What is the mitzvah? The action of the mitzvah is the vessel and the vehicle for godliness, the real will of Hashem, dira b'tachtonim, to reveal His essence in the world, that is done through the limb. You want to drink water, you need a cup. You want to see, you need the eye. You need a vessel for the power, for the life to come down into. What is the keli? What is the vessel for this pnimius haratzon, for the internal essential will of Hashem, of why He really created the world, is the mitzvahs. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, "Lochein nikro evorim de malka." Therefore, mitzvahs are called the limbs of Hashem. What does the limb do? He says, "Derech Moshe." Just like the limbs of a person. Heim levush lenafshe are the garments for the soul. Ubetelem legamri eleh mikol v'kol, and therefore the limbs of the person are completely bottled to Hashem. Meaning, we just mentioned, you want to see, you need an eye. You want to write, you need a hand. You want to talk, you need a mouth. What is that? That is the vehicle for the neshama to reveal itself. What is the vehicle for Hashem to reveal Himself in the world? The action of mitzvah. That's the limb. That's the keli for that level of elokus to come into the world. And he says, just like the limbs of the person are completely subjugated, bottled, nullified to the neshama, and he says, therefore, the second the person wants to move his hand or foot, think about it. All of a sudden I want to move my hand. It moves instantaneously. It's not that, okay, commanding is going to take 20 minutes until it gets the message, and then it's going to finally move. The limbs of the body are completely bottled to the neshama. The second the neshama wants to see, it sees. The second the neshama wants to move, it moves. So what is the uniqueness of limbs? Two things, the Alter Rebbe says. Number one, it's completely bottled to the neshama. Whatever the neshama wants, that's what the limb does, instantaneously. And secondly, the Alter Rebbe says, it's the vessel for the real will of the neshama. And he says, and they take from a yad, that the limbs, the foot, the whatever, listen instantaneously. You don't say, okay, the head says, okay, and move. It doesn't work like that. The head wants to move instantaneously, it moves. It doesn't say, okay, Alexa, turn on the light. So then you have a command and then it works. By the hand, it doesn't work like that. The second it wants to move, it moves. Why? Because it's completely bottled. Ubelishum shehiyah cloud, without any hesitation whatsoever. Next page. As soon as the person wants to move, the hand moves. You want to move the foot moves. You want to talk, the mouth moves. Why? Because it's the keli and bottle completely to the nefesh. And that's why we mentioned in the past, a healthy person doesn't feel his limbs. A healthy person's hand doesn't hurt, and the stomach doesn't hurt, and the head doesn't hurt. Why? Because then it doesn't feel itself as a separate entity. If it doesn't feel itself as a separate entity, it's bottled to the neshama. When your stomach hurts, it starts becoming a separate entity. That means you're sick. Your head hurts. That means it's not bottled. It feels itself as a separate entity. Then you're sick. So he says, just like as it is by a person. Top of 56 and 96. The life of the action of mitzvahs, the kiyumam and the fulfillment of mitzvahs, who bottle legamri, is completely bottled. Legabi rotzen ha'elyon, compared to the will of Hashem, hamalubish bay, v'nasule mamish kuguf l'neshama. It becomes mamish, like the body to the neshama. And Al Rebbe is going to explain this as follows. The Medrash says, it says about Avraham Avinu, but it says all of them. When Avraham Avinu was arguing with Hashem about Zdaim and different things, the pasuk says a funny expression: "Vayal me'olav Elokim." God went off him. That's what the pasuk. Vayal me'olav Elokim, meaning God lifted himself off him. And the Medrash says, what does the pasuk mean? He says it uses the analogy, ha'avis heinein merkava. The avis are the chariot, the horse. That when the rider is sitting on the horse goes where the rider wants it to go. There's no will of the horse itself. It goes where the rider wants. When the pasuk says "Vayal me'olav Elokim," it means, so to speak, kaviyach. It's a funny expression to use. God was riding Avraham Avinu, meaning, just like the horse goes where the master wants it to go, Avraham Avinu and Yitzchak and Yaakov and all tzaddikim go where Hashem wants them to go. That means, and he's going to explain this soon, 24/7 for 120 years, every one of their actions is only what Hashem wants. Now, Al Rebbe is going to explain that when a person takes money and gives it to tzedakah, at that moment, because the person is doing the mitzvah, I mean, it says Yadam, it could be any mitzvah, but Al Rebbe usually explain Yadam Machalik tzedakah. When the hand is giving tzedakah, at that moment, the hand is a merkava, is completely nullified, subjugated, bottled, one with Hashem himself. The difference is the same hand that gave tzedakah, a minute later could do an aveda, God forbid. The same mouth, while it was learning Torah, the mouth is a merkava, completely bottled to Hashem. The mouth a little bit later can speak Lashon Hara. By the Avis and by Tzaddikim, it's 24/7 for their entire lifetime. So that's a much, but he says, why are mitzvahs called the limbs of Hashem? Just like the limbs of the person are completely bottled to the person, and they are the vessels for the lifeline of the neshama's power in the body, mitzvahs are the lifeline of Hashem in the world. They are completely bottled to Hashem. Therefore, when a person does a mitzvah, they become a merkava. They are connecting to the limbs of Hashem. They're becoming one with Hashem. We said the problem is a minute later you can, God forbid, do something else. And he says, Valkain, therefore, Gam Evari Gufa Adam. Therefore, the limbs of the person, Hamakaim mitzvah, that does the mitzvah, the hand is benching lich, putting on tefillin, giving tzedakah, or whatever part of the body. The action level, because you're talking about action, of the Gavi soul, Meluvish Bahem B'Shas Maisa, dresses itself into them at the time of the action. The Kiyam mitzvah, the fulfillment of the mitzvah. Hem Nasu Merkava Mamish L'Ratzanel, they become Mamish, the chariot. Okay, they become the vehicle for Hashem. Like he says, Yada Machalek Tzedakah L'Aniyim, the hand that gives tzedakah to poor people, or Raglaim and Mahalchus, the feet go to a mitzvah, or Perveloshin, the mouth and tongue, Shemedabe Divrei Torah, or the mind that thinks Torah, V'Yirushamayim of Gedolos Hashem Baruch Hu. So he says, Al Rebbe says, when a person does a mitzvah, and this is a very unique thing Al Rebbe is saying, you become one with Hashem. At the time you do a mitzvah, you become one with Hashem. That means when I, with my hand, give tzedakah, at that moment, my hand is one with chesed of atzilus, which is act of charity. Chesed of atzilus. It's one with God. And in the soon we're in Chav Gimel, but in Perek Chav Hey, Dr. Rebbe adds a phenomenal concept to it. And Dr. Rebbe explains later on that when I give tzedakah 9 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't mean 9 o'clock in the morning I'm connected, and that's it. He says because you're connecting to a level of God, which is above time and place. Dr. Rebbe says in Perek Chav Hey the expression "V'yichud zel l'mayli hu nitzchi le'olam v'od." I'm not connecting to myself to God. Yeah, by me it's 9 o'clock. But the level of godliness I'm connecting to is infinitely above time and place. That means that connection that I did at 9 o'clock when I did the mitzvah, no matter what the mitzvah is eternal and permanent. That lasts forever because I connected to a level of God above time and place. And that's the uniqueness of a mitzvah. You do a mitzvah, you're permanently connected. And therefore we said that Rebbe had a remarkable opinion in bringing Jews closer to Yiddishkeit. That nobody had. Now a lot of people are starting because they see how it works. The Rebbe's opinion is, you meet a Jew in the street, don't talk to them about love, sex, and marriage. Don't talk to philosophy. You want to know what to do? The Rebbe says, you meet the Jew in the street, do a mitzvah, put tefillin on with him. Ben shlicht with them. Do a mitzvah with them. Say a pasuk of chumash with them. Do a mitzvah with them. Why? They become permanently connected. Once they're permanently connected to Hashem, now you can talk to them. You have a basis. They're connected already. So now go talk to them. Bring them closer. But the Rebbe's opinion is, and that's why the Rebbe wanted, you meet a Jew in the street, the first thing you do is learn Torah. Put tefillin on with them. If it's a time you can't put on tefillin, do a mitzvah with them. Give him $1 to give to tzedakah. Do something that would be benefiting everybody. But what do you gain by that? This is what Dr. Rebbe is saying over here. You do a mitzvah. At the moment you do a mitzvah, you're connected to the essence of Hashem, like the limb is connected to the neshama, that it instantaneously moves. But what happens is it's permanent. It's a permanent connection. If it's a permanent connection, then it's remarkable. And he says, this is what the Medrash says. Ha'avis hein hein amarkava, the avis with this vehicle of godliness. The chariot, what do you mean the avis with a chariot? Shekol ebarehem kulam, every single limb of their body. Hayu kadeshim umuvdalim min yani elam hazeh. They're holy and removed from any worldly things. And they only became a chariot. Only to the will of Hashem Kol Yamei. Okay? So here, Dr. Rebbe is speaking the uniqueness of mitzvahs. Now he's going to explain Torah is even greater. Dr. Rebbe is explaining what is the mitzvah? That's where he starts Perek Gimel. Now we'll understand why the mitzvah, the Zohar says the mitzvahs are the limbs of Hashem. What is a limb? Bringing down the chayes. What is the Torah mitzvahs? Bringing down the real will of Hashem. Why Hashem really created the world. And that becomes a limb which is completely nullified to Hashem, one with Hashem, connected to Hashem to such an extent, Hashem says wants to move, you move. the tzaddik wants to move, he moves. Because that's what he is. But it's only called limbs of the body. The limbs is still not the neshama. There's a neshama coming into the limbs. The limbs are not the neshama. It's bottled to the neshama. It's completely subjugated and nullified to the neshama, but it's still not the neshama. It's the limbs of the neshama. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to start it because it's late. But the Alter Rebbe is going to say, the Zohar says, Torah and Hashem are one. It's not the limbs of Hashem. Torah is mamish one with Hashem. He says, we'll just start it and okay, we'll see how far we get. But when it comes to thoughts of Torah in your mind, the and the power of speech when you learn Torah verbally, which are the inner garments. There's 3 garments. There's thought, speech, and action. Okay, the most external garment is action, because action leaves the body. Speech is more internal than action. But thought is called levush hapnimi. And again, I'll just start explaining it, and we're going to have to do it next week more. Now, the Rebbe explains in Torah Ard that a person is called Adam. Why is a person called Adam? So Chumash said Adam, whatever. But it said, the Rebbe explains like this. Adam is Aleph, Daled, Mem. Aleph refers to thought. Daled, dibur. And Mem is Ma'asa, action. So the word Adam represents thought, speech, and action. So the Alter Rebbe says, so why aren't we called Madam, Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa? We should not be called Adam, we should be called Madam, Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa. Why is thought called Aleph? So the Alter Rebbe explains, because thought is the garment of the 3, which is mamish, one with the nefesh. Why? You can sometimes stop talking unless you're in shul. You can sometimes stop doing, but you can never stop thinking. You can never, even if you're not thinking, if you're thinking, you're not thinking. It's impossible not to think. Why? So Chassidus explains, because thought is so one with the nefesh. The nefesh always functions, so does thought. So from the 3 garments, again, to be continued, the 3 garments, Maisa, action is the most external, then speech, and the most internal is really thought. And therefore it's called Aleph because it's one with the neshama. And that's why a blemish in thought is a deeper blemish on the soul than a blemish in action, because it's closer to the soul. To be continued, everybody have a great week, a great Shabbos. It's a Shem Monday night. Another class in Parsha. Tell your friends. Hopefully we'll see you. Everybody stay healthy.